we are on. Okay. So just share my screen. Okay, can someone confirm that they can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gleb. Thank you. All right. So I won't spend too much time on the PowerPoint. I will, but you will see that I will switch between the PowerPoint presentation and between the my UI, my interface. Okay, so I will explain what we're doing. I will try to break it down as much as possible. Okay, so if something is unclear, if you want me to repeat, if you want me to clarify something, please feel free. Okay, I want this session to be interactive, or if you have any question. Okay. So using Splunk attack range. All right, so that will be the agenda for today. So I will explain first what is Splunk attack range. Why is it important to use such tools? The architecture and features behind the attack range. And then basically I will show you how to leverage attack range and Splunk. Okay, so how to use attack range to develop content and to create rules mapped against specific tactics and techniques. Okay, and then we will I will show you RBA for those of you who are familiar with RBA. So RBA is risk-based alerting. Okay, and I think it has been available for quite a while now within Splunk Enterprise Security. It's actually leveraging some of the framework which have been there for a long time, like the risk framework, the asset and identity framework, etc. Okay, so it's a very nice feature to have, and they have just released some new content for RBA. So you're very lucky because I have the latest enterprise security version here. So you'll be able to see the RBA threat topology. Okay. Okay, so how can you leverage attack range? Okay, so it really depends on your use case, right? It depends what you want to achieve. So mostly to quickly provision fully configured environments, right? Because if you're tasked by your SOC manager, for example, let's take this as an example, right? You're a SOC analyst and your SOC manager asks you, look, I've seen this specific tactic on impacting Windows server, right? Windows OS. Can you check if we're vulnerable or not? So as a SOC analyst, you will have to build your own lab. Okay, so you probably have to build your Windows server, then you have to build your what do you call that? Your emulation or simulation, attack simulation tool. You will have to build whatever sim you're using, in that case, Splunk Enterprise Security, etc., etc. Okay, and it actually takes some time, right? It can take like 4, 5, 6 days before you have like close to a production environment up and running, right? For us, we use, I use attack range to demo. It actually gives you like a great demo environment, right? And it's very quick to set up as well. And you will see, but there are optional components that you can bring in basically. Okay, for Splunk customer, again, it's a very effective way to see if you're protected, right? So your EDR vendor said that you're protected against a specific tactic. Okay, let's find out, right? Let's bring attack range. Let's use atomic red team, and let's find out, right? Let's bring the logs from your EDR vendor and see if it was actually stopped successfully, right? Let's see if your environment is still detecting whatever tactics and techniques. So introduction to Splunk attack range. Okay, so it allows the user to quickly build a small lab infrastructure as close as possible to your production environment. Okay, that's pretty much what I was explaining. Okay, and you can choose which component you want to set up, you want to build, right? So let me just quickly switch to this page here, right? So that's the GitHub project. So yeah, before we go any further, I should explain that this is like an open source. Okay, it's an open source project. So you can access it directly from GitHub. Okay, and you can see here it's a detection development platform. You can see you have various ways that you can set up attack range. Okay, I know one of you tried on Azure. Personally, I do it on AWS. Okay, so in that case, I use Terraform to automate the whole setting up of instances, and then I use like Ansible as well for the configuration part, etc., etc. Okay, now I think we made it easier. Now we use like Kubernetes, right? So you have the documentation, okay? So as I was explaining, you can choose what you want to add within the environment. So you can have like, Windows domain controller, you can have like a normal server, you can get the server to join to domain, you can have a Windows workstation, you can have a Kali machine, you can have the Splunk server. Optionally, you can have enterprise security as well. You can have Splunk SOAR, shouldn't call it Phantom anymore, but this is like all documentation. So you can have Splunk SOAR, and it's not Cloudera anymore. It has actually changed. It has been replaced, if I remember correctly, by Prelude. What's the name again? Prelude. We'll talk about it later on, but yeah, it has been replaced by another solution. So basically, with the attack range, it's a simple command, right? When you build your attack range, it will build the whole environment for you, whatever you ask for. So if you have, for example, if you want Splunk, so you have to specify in the conf file your username and password that you use to access MyPhantom. Okay. It will set up Splunk Enterprise Security. If you set up the Windows devices, it will also install the forwarder as well, right? And the forwarder will be set up in such a way that it will actually collect lots of very useful logs and events, okay? Such as Windows events, for example, or Sysmon, PowerShell, etc., etc. Okay, so super useful. And you can also, and you can also use boss of the SOC. Okay, so it's in the conf file as well. If you want, you can enable the boss of the SOC dataset to appear in your environment. Okay, to be ingested within Splunk. Okay, so that's in a nutshell, right? So myself, as I say, I set it up in AWS. So there are some specific steps that you need to follow. For example, you need to make sure that you have a user within AWS with programmatic access, not specifically admin rights, but it helps. That's what I have myself. So programmatic access, you need to make sure that you have the key pair as well. You have access to the key pair. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do is automate. So Splunk attack range will automate the setting up of instances within your AWS or Azure environment, right? So I assume the configuration on Azure is very similar, right? From my side, if you ask me where I got stuck with some Python dependencies, okay? But it's not the topic, but if you get stuck, because I have played with the attack range for some time, if you get stuck, let me know, and and I will see what I can do. Okay, I will help you out. So why is adversary simulation is important for various reasons? Making sure that you have the right control and detection in place, specific tactics and techniques, making sure that what used to work still work, making sure that you have the right detection tools as well, that your vendor EDR or firewall or whatever is working as it should. Adversary simulation versus simulation, I don't have to get in there. So no, it's not Caldera, it's something else. So basically that's what included in the attack range. So you have like red atomic team, you have purple sharp, sure, and then you have like another tool. Okay, I'm skipping on the slide because it's a very redundant, right? So I don't want to explain the same thing over and over again. There is no point. So again, what's the attack range? It's like an open source project which can help you build like a small lab as close as possible as your production environment, and basically run some specific tactics and techniques using the tools available to help you develop and build your own content and detection rules. Okay, kind of like this. I like this slide. Always makes me laugh. Also, because someone was asking me, it integrates very easily into a CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so it's not the topic for today, right? However, I will share afterwards and remind me if I forget. Okay, because I tend to forget stuff. This is me getting old. But I'm going to share my email address in the chat, okay? And if I forget, just remind me. But we have some cool article on basically building your own content and reusing it, right? Making it like repeatable, okay? So instead of having to every time reinstall Splunk Enterprise Security and build your own the same detection rules all over again and have to configure them, what you can do, there is like a GitHub repository out there which you can fork, basically it's explained here, right? And then you can customize the content that you want. All right, you can customize. It's like you can see it's broken down into directory, but it's very clear, right? And this article is very well detailed. Okay, and basically once you have like configure the rules that you want, etc., what you can do is you can package it as an app, right? So you can reuse it. Okay, so it's not the topic for today, but I'm going to share it with you nonetheless. All right, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, should have it in the chat now. All right, okay, so this I explained. So these are the components that you can use and that you can bring into your environment. Okay, so as I said, behind the scene, we use Terraform to set up your environment, being in Azure, AWS, or on Docker, and we use Ansible for the configuration part. Okay, so making sure that the Splunk Enterprise and Splunk Enterprise Security are set up correctly, making sure that your forwarders is actually set up correctly, has the right sysmon template configuration, etc., etc. Okay, so everything is automated behind the scene, right? So once you have set up the attack range, there is not much you have to do. The following log sources are collected from the machines, so a lot to play with, right? Now, having said that, if you wanted to install a ransomware on your Windows machine, right, and see if Splunk, well, if your EDR detected, and if you can get the logs within Splunk or whatever, you can do that as well, right? We have some videos on YouTube Patrick Barres, which explain, I have to give credit to this guy, Patrick Barres, and Joanne on that as well. They build this tool, but and they have like released lots of very cool videos that you can leverage. Attack range features. So basically, indexing of Microsoft event logs, PowerShell logs, Sysmon logs, DNS logs, pre-configured with multiple technical add-ons for field extraction and SIM. So as I say, it's like, out of the box, it's already pre-configured. Splunk Enterprise Security, you know what Splunk Enterprise Security, okay? If you don't know, Splunk Enterprise Security is like a SIEM solution for Splunk, okay? So you have Splunk Enterprise, which is like our big data platform, and then you have Splunk Enterprise Security, which is kind of our SIEM solution. And Splunk SOAR, which is a security orchestration and automation platform. I won't cover Splunk SOAR today, but if you wanted to, you could integrate it into your attack range. You can build it. You can build it in, and then you can have like a notable event, trigger an adaptive response, send the event to Splunk SOAR, run run your playbook that you have created or community playbook, etc. Okay. Okay. So, right. So Atomic Red Team is a library of test mapped the MITRE attack framework. This is what we will leverage today. Okay. So it's automatically installed on target. If you go to Windows C, it's actually there. Where is it? I was pretty sure it was there. Okay. Atomic Red Team. Yeah, it's there, right? So you can see it's on GitHub, and there you go. You have all the tactics and techniques here. If you want to have some information regarding specific tactics, you can just dig in. Okay, you have a YAML file and an MD file as well. Just click on it, and you have a description. Okay, so here is basically OS credential dumping. Okay, so it's all explained. Okay, and for each technique, you have all the underlying tests, right? You have various ways to proceed. So, for example, I will show you later on how to dump the lsas.exe memory using proc dump. Okay. Purple Shop. So Purple Shop is like an open source adversary simulation tool. It's written in C. It executes adversary technique within Windows Active Directory environment. Then you have a Prelude operator. So that's the one replacing Caldera. I was like, I knew it was Prelude, but I could not remember the exact name. It's installed on the Splunk server, and it's available over TCP port 50051. There is a cool video where, again, it's explained step by step how to use it. But basically, it's like an agent. You have some built-in TTPs. You can create your own TTPs as well. You can run security assessment, penetration testing, automate red team operation, do offensive security techniques, etc. Okay, and basically you can check, for example, if your defenses are configured the way they should be, if the users are behaving correctly, if you can check the configurations, etc., etc. And then Kali Linux. I don't really have to present Kali Linux. Okay, so the attack range. All right, so let's dig into the attack range. Okay, so I'm just a sec. So you can see. All right. Can you see my terminal?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. Okay, so basically, that's the I'm in the virtual environment, and I can show you, my attack range. So I mean, the commands are pretty limited. Okay, so this will basically show you your attack range environment. Okay, I don't mind using my password. I will destroy it afterwards. You can destroy it, right? So this is supposed to be an ephemeral environment, right? So you just set it up, do whatever you have to do, and then destroy it. You can pause, can resume, etc., etc. Okay, so in a nutshell, right? And then you can see how to access your environment. Okay, so you can see here, Prelude operator is actually where is it? It should be here via the same IP because it's on Splunk server as well. But then I will just need to change the port. Okay. So everything is in the documentation. Okay. Yeah, great. I'm in incognito mode on this one. So let me see, where is it? You can find it here. You gotta be careful because there are two documentations. Okay. This one here. There is like, I think in the wiki, there is another one. Okay. If you, again, everything is explained here, but if you get stuck, just feel free to reach out. Okay. Okay. So how much does it cost? Well, it all depends on the type of instance that you set up. Okay. You can set it up locally as well. You don't have to set it up on AWS or Azure. You can set it up locally as well. Okay, getting hands-on. Okay, so let's have fun. Okay, so here, all right. So okay, so we can run specific tactics, right? So let's go and check it out. Where is it? Okay, so as the one here, I think. All right. Okay, so you can go check the techniques, and we're interested in the. All right, this one, OS credential dumping. So you can check. Can check the sub technique. So here we're interested in this sub technique here. Okay, so you have like a sub technique description, right? You have an example. You can see which platform are actually impacted. You can see how to mitigate as well. You can see how to detect, right? Process access, process creation. We can have more information here. Process creation. So now if you search this technique again, there you go, right? Some technique as of memory, and there you go. Okay. And basically, I mean, it's explained here how to detect it, right? So basically what you want is you want like from sysmon process creation log, or you want from Windows auditing event ID 4688. Okay. And luckily we actually do get these events within Splunk Enterprise Security. So attack range includes several sysmon templates. You can use your own if you want to. Okay. So now basically, if you go to, all right, so Yeah, let's see, I think it's duck. But if you go to Splunk Security Essentials, okay, let me duplicate this one. Okay, content overview. So basically, I should have had this ready beforehand. I do apologize for that, but you can go and look for specific tactics and techniques. Okay. I thought I had it here. No, I don't. Okay. So I will explain this one later on as well. Security content. That's what I want. Okay, there, right. So basically, for those of you who don't leverage Splunk Security Essentials, I strongly recommend that you start doing it, right? This is super useful. And here I will show you how you can actually customize, specific filters to include the attack tactics and techniques. I'm not sure why. I think it's just slow. All right, so there is no point in me hammering it. I'm going to give it a bit of time, but basically, I think we should have it here. Yeah, there you go. So this is what you will get within Splunk Security Essentials, right? So you can go and search for specific tactics, like or specific technique, like this one here, right? And you have you can put it into a filter, and then it will show you a detection, right, for it. And you will have everything. You will have a narrative of what this search actually is. You will have the mapping to the MITRE ATT&CK tactics and techniques. You will see what data sources you would need. It's also mapped to the CIS as well, and you will have the searches that you need. Okay, and you will see later on. We will actually leverage that. So Atomic Red Team, I show you that, right? It's actually full of very useful technique and technique test. There you go. Here, that's what I wanted to show you. Okay, I love it when it works. Okay, that's what we call the Murphy's Law. Normally works fine, and the day you present it, it actually does not anymore. Okay. Let's not lose hope here. Okay, there you go. See, all a matter of staying positive, right? So we can check for tactics and threat group, and there you go. All right, and now I could actually search for a specific, a specific threat group, right? I could, search when the search is included based on the SPL difficulty, based on the kill chain as well, etc., etc. Okay. So I'm going to save that in the meantime, and there you go. So here, just to show you, you can actually, again, as I explained, search for a specific tactic. Okay. Again, same in Splunk Security Essential. You have the MITRE ATT&CK framework, right? And we don't really use enterprise security content update anymore. It has been how do you say, protein Splunk Security Essentials. Okay, all right. So let me now show you. So I'm going to run a these specific techniques actually. So
Mehdi, sorry for interrupting. We will get this slide, or should I take a snapshot of all these? These steps will be really handy while installing.
I can share. Yeah, I can share some content with you. Not to worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So here, basically, what I'm going to do is launch a specific technique, right? So, okay. So we used to have the ability to run like a specific test, right? Because for each technique, there is like a underlying test, right? So here, I think we wanted to run the program specifically. However, I think there is a bug, and it's being like, an issue has been raised in GitHub for that. So I'm going to run the whole range of tests for this specific technique. Okay, so that's basically how it's done, right? So we are going to let it run behind the scene. You can see here, everything is happening, right? And if I wanted to, I could, let me just check, where is my, oh yeah, my Windows environment, where is it? I think that's the one here, yeah, that's the one, okay. I'm going to access my Windows environment via RDP in the meantime. Okay, here, okay. Not this one, I don't want this one. All right. Okay, add PC, yep. And you can see it's still running, right? And see, it's actually seems to be running successfully. Okay. All right, okay. So I'm accessing my Windows environment at the same time. And if you were to go and check, okay, this one is still stuck, great. If you were to go and check your attack range reporting, because there is an app called attack range reporting, which I hope is going to work. All right, cool. It's working, right? You can see here the simulation run, right? The tactics and techniques, right? So you can see I've run like quite a lot, okay? But you can see all the tactics and techniques. So you can see I've run this technique already, okay? All right, so it's just to make sure that it's working properly, and it seems to be, okay? If I refresh it now, you should have more data. I'm going to do like last 15 minutes maybe. So still not here. Yeah, see, it's coming. All right, there you go, right? So this is what I just basically run. So again, all these, not only the program, but all the underlying tests have been run, all right? Okay, cool. So this, we have done it. So I have shown you security content. So again, you could go and check the specific tactics and technique within enterprise, within Splunk Security Essentials. So that's the technique you're interested in, and proc them, because in the workshop we only set up this test, basically this sub test technique. Okay, and here again you have like it's mapped to the MITRE attack tactics. So you know at which stage exactly this happened. You can see which threat group are actually leveraging this technique, how to implement, etc., etc. And you can see if you have the right data as well, right? So you could see if you have the right data. You can see if it actually happened, if Splunk detected some events in your environment. Here is the case. And if I show you, I will show you later on if time allows it, you will see that it's actually the case, right? So it's working just fine, right? That's the search based on the detection use case. All right, okay. Not gonna have any break, right? Now, if you want to go one step further, what you can do is you can take like a specific thread group, right? Like, for example, Wizard Spider, right? And I kind of like this part here, right? I think it's very cool. Of course, we won't be selecting all the tactics and all the techniques that they're actually using, but we can actually select some, right? And this is exactly what we will do here. So basically, we will take the kill chain, right? And we will basically use we will leverage some of the techniques at different stages of the kill chain, right? From the execution to the persistence to the defense evasion, right? And I have mapped everything for you. So for example, if you take like the first one, which is like PowerShell, so you have like, I can share this with you later on, guys. I don't want to waste too much time, but you have like a specific. This is this link to the MITRE ATT&CK page. Okay, so you have like, it's very common to leverage PowerShell. Use it like in transparent mode with admin privileges. Execute specific operation. Download additional files, etc., etc. It's very, very common technique, right? So here, basically, I have mapped it to the MITRE ATT&CK page. So in that case, the Splunk Security Essentials technique, rule that will be used is the any PowerShell download file. Okay, then you have like where's the next one? You have this one here, the technique 1547, which is like using keys to establish persistence. So for example, adding like a registry in startup, etc. Right? Adding a key in the startup registry, etc., etc. So again, here that will be mapped to the registry key used for persistence. So basically, what I have done is that I have enabled all the rules that we need, right? All the rules that we need to actually detect the specific tactics and techniques, or more techniques that we will be simulating. Okay, and here you have a search. What I have done as well, I have gone to Splunk Enterprise Security, and I have enabled some correlation rules. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you first the correlation rules. Here's our content. So content management, and also that's very important as well. I have set up the asset and identities as well. Okay, so I have like a lookup file with the asset and identity. Okay, and here correlation status, where is it? Status enabled. Okay, that's what I want, right? So you can see here. I want to show you very quickly. So basically, this is what you will done. You will have to do the asset and identity management, okay, with the lookup file, etc. You have to enable it so that it's leveraged by the correlation rules, okay? All right, so I'm going to disable this rule because we don't need it straight away. These are the RBA related rules, okay? So I just want to show you first without RBA, okay? So I'm going to execute one after another, okay? So that's the way you would do it, right? Again, the same principle, very easy, very straightforward, okay? For the sake of time, I'm going to show you what you will get. So I'm not going to execute everything because I have done it already because I knew we would run out of time. But basically, I have configured the rule correlation rules to look for the last 20 minutes. Okay, last 20 minutes up to now, and also to run every 5 minutes. Right, you wouldn't do that normally, but I just want to trigger the rules. So here, if you go to risk analysis, you should see you should see the rule. Okay, remind me later. So you could see the rules here, which trigger. Okay, so you can see that yes, Splunk is actually detecting, right? It's like, you know, the correlation rules are actually triggering. And you can see it's actually all the rules that I showed you here, right, in the bookmarks. So it's fine. My rules are actually working fine. So it's a good way to see if your rules are actually working as they should. Now, let me introduce quickly RBA because we don't have much time left. But risk-based alerting is the idea that you, instead of basically triggering like a correlation rule every time something happens, basically when you trigger a correlation rule, you will populate a risk index. Okay, and it's, as the name implies, it's based on a risk, right? So if you say for a specific asset, you know, the risk will multiply by whatever 5 every time something happens, and within 24 hours, if the risk exceeds whatever threshold, I want to set up a notification. I want to set up an alert. Okay, and you can see it here. So you can do it based on the attack framework. So you can say, okay, so if I see, like, you know, specific tactics and techniques within 24 hours, a specific amount of tactics and techniques within 24 hours, I want to be alerted, right? And this is very cool because basically you reduce the number of alerts that you get because you don't have like traditional correlation rules triggering anymore, right? Instead, you have like one rule only, like this. And the cool thing is, you can see here, you have like the kill chain, and you can see at which stage this rule or this attack actually occurs, right? And then if you want, you can see the underlying event, right? So instead of having to, you know, instead of having like 20 alerts that are going to trigger, you will have one only. And then you can go and investigate the underlying event. Some of these events happening, you know, in a different context might be benign, but if they happen in like, you know, if they happen like subsequently, then this is something to worry about. Okay, and this is exactly what we show here, right? So again, I have like a very cool article on how to enable RBA. Now, the new thing we have introduced is the thread topology, right? Well, for example, if you see specific artifacts, where else have I seen this artifact? Okay, here I have obviously have two machines, so it's not really, you know, it's not really meaningful. But in a big environment, if you had identified like a specific IOC, you could see where else this IOC has been seen. And that's it. I am done. So I hope this was useful to you. I hope you have a better understanding of how to leverage the Splunk attack range. Do you have any question? Yeah, you need a license. I can see in the chat, you need a license, yeah.
Yeah, Mandy, so I have few questions. So,
Yes.
like for enterprise security also, is pre-install no further license required? Is the moment we install it, everything is pre-configured, right?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And
So you can choose, it's actually in the conf file. So let me show you the conf file quickly. I think it's here. Yeah, that's the one here. You can see here, this is where you set up all the configuration. For example, if you use Azure, you have to specify all these parameters, and then you can choose whether you want enterprise security or not. It's somewhere here. Yeah, install ES. Yeah. Yeah. You had another question, I think, right?
Yeah, and second question is, so this is all about like how we can, test and build, or you can say develop our security rules, right? But what
Correct.
about,
Yeah.
yeah, but how to, like, what do you suggest for those rules which are already there in production and now we want to test it? So what do you say, like, what will be the better way of testing those rules? Say I
You
have.
could package you could
Mhm,
package them as an app, maybe.
mhm,
You could package the rules as an app and then maybe import into the attack range environment.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
But
that's the
I
way I would
have to
do it.
do little bit of like exercise over there, like changing the
Yeah,
index, not index, source type. I guess I need to change, right, as per the standard.
yeah.
Yes, okay.
Most likely you will have to customize. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. So all these rules are based on only like on data models, or it's also some rules are just like normal rules.
It's just a Splunk security essentials. So not, yeah, it's not all data model. I think some are actually normal rules.
Mhm.
I didn't really. We can see here. You can see for each rule.
And is there
Yeah,
any way
this.
to? Okay.
Yeah, it's a data model. I think. Yeah, but you
Is
don't
there
have to do
any?
it this way. So, yeah, tell me.
Yeah, if it's a data model, then it's okay. But if it is
Yeah.
for those things where it is not data model, how to understand like what source type, what should be the source type so that it should start picking the logs.
Um. Yeah,
Those
that's a good
logs
question.
are bigger. Yeah.
I think all the SS. I mean, I think most of the SSCs are actually based on data models, to be honest with you. And I
Mhm.
can see here all of these are actually data model.
Then it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would be, yeah, I would
Sorry,
think,
Matt,
yeah,
but the data model is based on a source, on a data source. Even if there is a data model, it should be like and look here is
yeah. There is
network
still
communication. But when you
an
say,
underlying data source. Yeah.
here endpoint detection and response, that is like, let's say it's a server, Windows server. Do you need an agent, or you can um, go to the EDR solution you have and rely on that data or that log?
So you need like, so basically, you would install the forwarder, right? This is what you're referring to. So you would need to install the universal forwarder.
Mhm.
Um, Having said that, you can collect sysmon data, for example. You still need the UF. For Windows events, you have different ways to collect the data. You don't necessarily need an agent. You have multiple ways to do so.
Correct.
When it comes to EDR, I guess it depends on the EDR solution, but my recommendation is always to go for the universal forwarder.
Okay. So here, most of the like those actually using atomic red, we are executing different attack, and
Yeah,
those are actually generating logs via sysmon, right? And
correct.
in our premise, maybe or some other premise, there is sysmon is not enabled. All they have is just EDR in place. So
Yeah,
for that also we need to modify, right? The threshold
uh,
or the event name, the
yeah,
alert
correct.
name.
Yes, if you would, yeah, if you were to use the attack range and you don't have the sysmon data, you have like EDR data. You mean?
Hmm.
So if you were to configure the rules and then, um, no, the data model is still the same,
It's still
right?
the same.
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, regardless of even if it's EDR, if it's sysmon, if it's Windows event, it will still fall under the data
Under the
model,
data
right?
model endpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, endpoint processes, if it's sysmon, if it's detected by Windows event, it will still fall under this data model. So it does not matter. And that's the beauty about leveraging the common information model and the data models as well, is that you don't have to go through this complicated and cumbersome configuration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
And can you quickly also check like what is the default license over here of how many GBs or MBs?
Let's see. I think it's it's probably one of these. Hang on. I need to go to the. Why did I do that? I need to go to the. Where is it licensing? Yeah. 500 MB. Yeah, 500 MB.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other question? Any feedback? Was it clear? Was it useful for you?
Yeah, Mandy, this was really useful. Apart from it, like might be it was time consuming, but it was really good if we could have seen, the real installation in real time. But I understand
Oh,
it might be time taking, right?
it would be time consuming. If you want,
Uh-huh.
you can drop me an email. I can record a video and I can show, how to install it. Again, I have faced a few issues while installing it because I was not using Docker, right? So the recommendation is to use Docker or Kubernetes. It's much easier, but I was using AWS. So I had some missing dependencies like Python missing dependencies. So I had to sort out everything myself. But if you struggle, if you face an issue, let me know. I have spent lots of time playing with the tool now, so yeah, I've faced a
Sure,
few issues here and there. Yeah.
sure, Mandy.
All right. Cool. So I'm going to stop sharing. Ahmed, are you here?
Yeah.
All right. So I think you should have. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I have
make you
plenty of
host.
time.
All right, I'm gonna make you a host, man. Take it home.
All right. Cool. So everybody sees my screen?
We can see it.
Okay, cool.
I like the color.
All right,
It's
so David.
All right, I'm muting
All
myself.
right. Cool. So guys, I'm gonna go through the Splunk solution for IT operations, and we'll talk about the main problem that any organization face and how to solve it from a technology perspective, then how Splunk actually fits into the solution and is a big differentiator than any other tool out there in the market. So basically, the problem of any modern IT infrastructure is the increasing complexity of technology components, starting from the building management systems to servers, and these servers needs networks and firewalls, of course, load balancers or network devices, and servers will definitely need storage and end user monitoring, virtual machines, backup, you name it. And of course, there are some cloud apps like SaaS or infrastructure as a service. It depends on each organization. But again, you can see the more layers you add, the more complexity it happens. And add to this, if they have like an in-house team for software development, so they will definitely have multiple environment like dev QA, production or pre-prod. And as you know, all the new technologies being adopted, so you might end up having running all these environments in bare metal, like physical machines, virtual machines or containers, or which is basically containers are now like kind of hosted on a virtual machine, which is already hosted on a physical server. So you can imagine
the number of layers and complexity that any IT administrator need to have visibility across to troubleshoot a single problem that might occur. So definitely, this will add more complexity and opaqueness to the visibility to the environment, and it causes usually service degradation. So this is what you usually see as a challenge in any of the organizations here in the world globally. So how do they solve it? So every time they add a new technology, they come with a monitoring solution that monitors this specific technology, and they keep looking at the availability of this component. So it ends up like having multiple tools like tool sprawl. And whenever there's an outage, everyone starts looking at his own tool. If it's green, then it's fine. And they keep pointing fingers to each other, and they gather in a war room trying to figure out where the problem is. And as we all know, it's always the database. So that's where we need to start from all the time. But again, the problem is that everyone speaks different language. Everyone looks from his own perspective, no consolidation. So how to solve this problem? The main, let's go through this first. So the impact definitely is on the organization from a lost revenue, customer experience not the best, and the engineers will be spending more time trying to figure out where the problem is instead of innovating and adding more new services, or even like being stressed that they have to do both. So in order to solve this part is you need to improve the monitoring and the root cause analysis in order to address the problem of the performance and outages and customer experience. So how do we do this? You have to gather three important aspects or three important data types, which are the metrics, events, and traces. Does anyone know the difference between the metrics, events, and traces? And please don't read it from the slides. Okay, I'll go through it. So metrics basically answers a question about if you have a problem or not. And usually metrics is a number or a counter that represents the status of this component that you are monitoring. For example, if you have a memory, if you have a CPU, if you have disk space, bandwidth, port availability, device availability, all this are represented in numbers that would tell you if it's a high number, it's risky, or vice versa. It depends on the counter itself. There are some of the counters are based on a formula, but again, it's represented with a number that gives you if it's up or down, like if it's good or bad. That's it. Okay, so if you heavily depend on metrics, you will end up having like the green and red visualization that you see on any monitoring tool out there. Okay, which is not the best way to monitor nowadays. Now you need to have more details. So whenever you have a problem, you definitely start finding out why I have a problem, and you get the answer to the why from the logs. So the logs or the events are basically time series records being stored in a file or in a database where you can go throughout the time and try to figure out what happened during this specific time period. The problem is that in order to go through these events, it's sometimes challenging because the format, and you need to access it using command line. You need to do some sed and awk commands to figure out the problem as fast as possible. The log rotation, the complexity of the file. It's really challenging to go through all of this, and you need to look at this screen and that screen. So that's another challenge of going through these events. And the last piece of the puzzle is the traces, where the traces basically looking from a user perspective, or or we call it a business transaction perspective, starting from a user who clicked a button, and this request moved from the front end to the back end, then going back. So you want to see the performance of this trace, or trace this transaction from the start to the end, to figure out where is it slow, or where the problem is. So it can pinpoint easy where the problem is. Maybe it's something with the codes, maybe it's something with the execution of the application, maybe it's a query. But again, you will definitely need to go to correlate this trace with an event and metric, because you might need to know this congestion is happening because a disk space. So disk space is represented by a metric. And in order to know that why I have a disk space issue, you need to check the logs to see what was being executed at this time that eventually created this problem with a disk space issue. So in order to have visibility across these three data, you need to consolidate all these data together in one platform and to make it easy for you to correlate and consolidate in one place, right? But there is another challenge, that these data types has a specific characteristic, which is the data volume, variety, and velocity. And actually, this is coming from the Gartner report, where the rapid growth of this volume, that it can grow from hundreds of gigabytes to terabytes of data per day, and the variety of the data sources and the formats. So it might come in different formats. So it's really hard to adapt to these formats if you are using systems that are based on relational database. So because if you have relational database, so definitely you need ETL that extracts the information and load it into tables. And to have complex formats, especially if you have in-house applications, it's really hard to maintain. The velocity, of course, because some of data sources might generate like in a microsecond, and not all the databases can adapt, and usually they aggregate. So you don't have like the granularity, or you don't have the real anomalies there, because you are throwing out data or averaging this data. So to have a system that can give you a true meaning of consolidation of data into for these three data types, you need a big data platform, which is basically what was Splunk built for. Splunk is built as a core platform, big data platform, to address this issue. So this is how we are positioning Splunk as a core engine that will help any organization that has multiple data sources from any location, any type, any volume, and to consolidate in one place. All right, so I will not go through this. You definitely know this. Uh, So I'm gonna focus on the business service insight part today. Of course, you know observability portfolio, but I'm really interested in this slide because this actually helps the customers or help you to figure out where Splunk actually fit into the organization. So in this slide, you can see this is the NOC, okay, Network Operations Center, and there is on the left side is the IT operation ITOM, the operation monitoring, and the ITSM service monitoring, okay, our service management. So basically, we lie on the left side, not on the right side, because this is actually creates some confusion to the customers or to the users who really don't know where does Splunk fit. Splunk fits on the left side. Basically, it collects the metrics, logs, and traces. It can capture metrics, logs, and traces by itself, and maybe using existing tools that are already there in the environment, or depending on the third-party tools, for example, like end user, I'm talking about like desktops, or the network devices like NPM solutions, or existing monitoring tools that they already have. So like SNMP monitoring tools. So we can consolidate our agents or our collection methods, or use existing data sources in order to consolidate and capture the logs, traces, metrics, including the events or the alerts, I would say, and have Splunk on top of it for reporting and alerting. So reporting and alerting basically for business insights and analytics, event management, which is the alert management and root cause analysis, and the predictive analytics. So once you have data and mature environment where you can start running machine learning algorithms on top of this data to leverage the predictive analytics parts. And these alerts can be consolidated and then integrated with the ITSM in order to create tickets to the to fulfill the ITIL process that they are following, and to go through the configured routes in order to respond proactively on incidents. Does it make sense? Any questions? Okay. Anybody hear me? Make sure that I'm
We can hear you. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's all good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So quickly here, like ITSI, basically, as everyone know that it's a technical view. How does it work? Is the technical service and the business service. It's split. And you define services, and within these services you define KPIs. These KPIs are responsible to represent the health score of each service. So if we take an example here, because the service insights, so glass tables like dashboards, basically it's a way where we provide nice cool dashboards for executives in order to have a high level about what's going on in the in the environment. This is fully customizable and helps getting all the information in all one place. The service analyzer is basically the topology of these services. So if you have a service, a business service, you can break it down into technical service and infrastructure as well. And throughout these services, you can see that there are multiple KPIs that represent the health score of this service. For example, if we're talking here about the web store, you can see multiple KPIs that represents the web store as a channel. So you would involve metrics like CPU, so utilization. You can see number of errors. That's a different KPI or different KPI that you can measure. You can see the number of visitors or response time, number of requests. All of these actually contribute in the health and the health score of this service. And of course, you can break it down to get more granularity by checking out the entities that are contributing for this specific KPI. So if you have like multiple web servers, you can see the performance of which actually web server is being impacted. So you can start pinpoint exactly and know what's going on. So the idea again is to help the once we consolidate data, once we have metrics, events, traces, everything in place, it's our job is to give the framework and the visualizations to help find the root cause and detect as fast as possible using visual aids, and to reach to the information, not to log in on a machine. So you can see the logs, you can see the raw data immediately from the dashboards that you have already. So a deep dive, basically it's a 360 view for all the KPIs that you have. You can select whatever you want. I can even compare it to a specific timestamp or compare it to another trend in order to see if it's like a normal behavior, or compare it to an incident that you know that happened in the last week. So you can start acting accordingly. And of course, the infrastructure monitoring, which you drill down and see the metrics for a specific host that you are monitoring. On the advanced analytics, okay, of course, we've heard a lot on the adaptive thresholding. And when it comes to machine learning that comes out of the box in the ITSI, so we need to be careful when to use it, because it's when it comes to machine learning, you need to make sure that you have a data with specific characteristics. So not all the data can fit into the model. So sometimes when you run these models on the data, it doesn't really give you the results were expected, like to have this nice adaptive threshold in this screenshot. It requires the data nature itself can support the machine learning to work properly and to predict and to create such adaptive threshold or dynamic thresholding. Most of the cases, these data is not cyclical, I would say. So the machine learning fails to, the model fails to predict and to create the dynamic thresholding itself. So data quality is really important, and not every single data indexed into Splunk can be elected for machine learning capabilities. Same for the predictive analytics because of the accuracy. So predictive analytics is, again, these KPIs being stored in Splunk, and you can see trends happening. So you need at least 2 weeks. What's recommended is 30 days of data, and again, it has to be cyclical. It has to be mature data. So whenever you try to apply the predictive analytics on this specific service that has these KPIs, this data might help or might not help to get accurate predictions. So because there are accuracy for the prediction, and the accuracy sometimes becomes challenging because it might not exceed like 10 or 15%. So before committing to predictive analytics, it's important to make sure that you are using the right data that can fit the machine learning model to get prediction, because it can predict, but the accuracy of prediction is much more important than the prediction itself, because I can predict that it's gonna fail in the next 30 minutes, but it doesn't. And I can tell the vice versa, which is like a false positive, which is it's not gonna fail and it fails. So it's gonna be a problem in that case. So machine, sorry, machine learning models running on ITSI requires specific characteristics for data sets. So it's important to make sure to position it when you have this right data. Event analytics, basically using the clustering algorithm. So if you have the alarms being sent out to ITSI, this works smoothly most of the time. And basically it consolidates all the noise, all the events in one episode that helps you detect what might be the probable root cause of the issue. So the idea is that when you have like hundreds of alerts coming on a specific service, so the consolidation of all of these events gathered in one episode, and the event module basically, or the episode, tells you what are the impacted services, what might be the impacted services, and what might be the probable root cause based on the first event that was detected, and what are the subsequent events happened right after it. So it can give you like a clue where to start from, and to make sure that this KPI or this service is working properly and not causing all this avalanche effect to the others. So that's a faster detection, faster root cause analysis that most of the organization actually lack and have challenges to. Any questions? Have you seen any customers recently trying to use ITSI with Kubernetes or with microservice environment? Have you tried to use Splunk or ITSI with Kubernetes environment as infrastructure monitoring before, or is it something still not there yet?
Come on, gentlemen, don't be shy. Huh?
Okay, maybe it's not something that has been discussed, but recently most of the environments are now adopting the Kafka, adopting multiple layers of technologies that are challenging for any APM tool to get you like the end-to-end transactions. And the infrastructure team or the applications team are now focusing more about where the problem is, and they do it using APM. But the problem, when it comes where the problem is, they don't know how to solve it because they don't have visibility into the infrastructure of the Kubernetes, because Kubernetes is hosted on virtual machines, which may be VMware, and these are on physical machines. And you have storage, you have firewall, you have load balancers. All these components are really hard to trace using APM tools. So ITSI comes in the place where you can consolidate the APM traces, and the logs coming out of this represent all this topology on ITSI, which will help identify root causes in microservice environment. So this is something that an interesting use case that you might see um, in multiple environments who are adopting the microservices architecture or the Kubernetes, because getting visibility of application logs running in containers is another challenge, because now you have the infrastructure metrics of the container itself, of the kube nodes, of the Kubernetes components, objects, everything. And you can still correlate what's happening from the Kubernetes infrastructure to the VM infrastructure, as well as the application log itself, all in one place. So that's really interesting, and a use case that you can easily Splunk can be differentiated against the others out there in the market.
Ahmed, how about the cloud as well? Like when you have like a hybrid environment.
Yeah, that's a good one. So if you have hybrid environment, if we are talking about like hosted Kubernetes on the cloud, or any SaaS solution, or like both?
Both, but I was talking about like a SaaS kind of, or
Okay.
infrastructure as a service, or
Yeah.
because it's challenging then to have like a central visibility, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, because some of the environments actually, they do have like the development environment on the cloud, like Microsoft Azure. They have the AKS, Azure Kubernetes Services, and the production is on-prem. So they wanna monitor both, like the dev environment and the production environment. So when it comes to the cloud, the managed Kubernetes, you only have APIs exposed by Microsoft in that case, or even AWS, to get these metrics in. So it ends up that you either monitor this or that. But in Splunk, again, the flexibility of us how to collect this data from APIs or from directly from the on-prem one, it's easy, and we can create both, so they can see all the infrastructure metrics, or all even the SaaS solutions. They can consolidate all the logs in one place. So it's really nice to put it all in together in a dashboard, because the next step would be like the product manager or the project or the scrum master, whoever, will start asking, what about the CI/CD pipeline? I want to see the DevOps cycle itself, the unit testing, all the software's development cycle. They want to see how the deployment happens, what kind of errors happening, the automation tests. So the next step is always consolidating all this view in one place, and to drill down and to find out what's the problem. That's the main challenge they face. So growing this story using Splunk, that's a sweet spot for us, because it's all based on logs generated from different data sources. And again, it goes back to the same message we talked about, that data variety and data volume and velocity. These are characteristics of big data, and this is how Splunk really fits into the case. All right, any questions? Any topics you want to talk about, discuss for wrapping up?
So Ahmed, Pawan here. How are you?
How are you, Pawan?
I'm good.
On time.
Ahmed, so we have all the a long time. So now we have when we are trying to position the observability now to customers, because we've got the ITSI piece, which is where we're trying to consolidate all of the data. But we've also got now the cloud ops part, right? The observability, which is you've got the real user monitoring, the synthetic monitoring, the infrastructure monitoring. So how does all of this tie in together? Is there sort of a framework that Splunk has come up with?
So
Because as
if
you
we
know, a
talk
lot of the
about,
customers in mid UAE especially now have like 70% on-prem, and about you said dev, but we know customers who've got about 20-30% have already gone cloud. And this is the hybrid problem that we have right now.
let me share the screen again. So make sure that I understand this correctly. There it is. Okay. So basically, if we talk about real user monitoring or synthetic monitoring, this is something that that we do, okay, using Splunk RAM and Splunk synthetic monitoring, or can be done by different tools. But the point is that in Splunk, the observability suite or the Splunk APM, Splunk real user monitoring, Splunk synthetic monitoring, Splunk infrastructure monitoring, all are cloud-based. So if the customer is cloud first strategy and they don't have a problem for hosting data outside of the UAE, so using our SaaS offering in that case would help getting a fast value out of it. In addition to the logs that are hosted on Splunk SaaS in that case. So both actually are integrated together. So there's a component called Log Observer, which basically connects the Splunk as a logging system or our core platform to the Splunk APM and the rest, like the observability suite, together in order to have one consolidated view from the ITSI. So I hope this answers your question.
That answers. Thank you. Okay, one follow-up question to that. Now, we have a customer who had asked this question. If he had Splunk Enterprise already in the cloud as a SaaS, does he need to then buy Splunk Log Observer? Are these two different functionalities, or is there an overlap between the two of them?
No, so Splunk Observer is basically like a data shipping from the signal effects to Splunk Enterprise. It's the component required to integrate both clouds together.
Understood. So basically, we do need Splunk Log Observer so that the APM and all the data, all the traces and the telemetry can come into Log Observer, and then Log Observer will send it to Splunk Enterprise.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Nope, no more questions, it seems. So thanks a lot, Ahmed. Great presentation, and
My pleasure.
I think we can wrap it up. So thanks a lot for attending the Splunk user group. I hope it was useful for you. If you have any feedback, if you have any question, feel free to reach out to us. Right. So I put my my email in the chat earlier. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Same with Ahmed, so Ahmed El Sheikh as well. So we give you back like 20 minutes, 25 minutes of your time actually, and stay tuned. We'll have more Splunk user group coming up. Again, if you want to present something, if you have like a cool idea, a use case that you have implemented, an application that you have developed, whatever it is, right? Reach out to us. We'll be happy to have you as a speaker. Okay. Thanks a lot again, and wishing you a nice rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks, Mahdi. Thanks, Ahmed. Nice seeing you guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and nice to meet you again. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.